Hey everyone, it's Mac from Kiwi and Chris from Purple here, and it's Saturday morning in Chris' place and afternoon in Poland here. We got actually snow here. I'm pretty sure, Chris, you don't have snow outside, right?
No, it's tropical weather here in Honduras.
Yeah. So the reason we meet here is because there's this Farcaster 2026 contest, and since we both uh, read all the pieces, we wanted to just discuss some ideas that we found interesting from the essays that have been submitted. So if you are interested in that, you can just listen to this podcast, and if any idea you find interesting, you can just find the essay and just dig in later. So this is the goal here, but it's also a casual chat. I don't know, Chris. I think you are one of the first Farcaster people I've met in real life in Denver,
Yeah,
because
cool.
it was
When?
2023 at
Yeah.
Orange DAO party. Actually, it was before even Farcaster meetup.
Yeah, cool. Cool. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is like I'm somewhere like it could be today. I'm somewhere around my 3-year forecaster anniversary. Um,
Wow.
yeah.
So happy birthday,
Yeah.
probably soon. Yeah, so uh, you know, one thing before we start is like we had a lot of these submissions. I think like 40 or 44 eventually. So there's like a lot of essays to be read. So do you have any like general thoughts after reading all of that before we dig in into, particular ones?
Um, I generally there was a good diversity of opinion. Like everyone kind of, I think number one, forecast there is something different to everyone. And then lots of people have different approaches on where to go in the future. So that was just kind of my big take. I did when I sat down to read, I read them over 2 days. I worried when I first sat down, like, oh, I'm just going to read the same post over and over again. But actually, it was not. It was like everyone had their own unique ideas on either what's wrong with Farcaster or where it can go or how to improve it, all of that.
Yeah, and also one thing I noticed is we had a lot of geographical diversity. Like we had people from China, we had people from Nigeria, we had people from, of course, US and Europe. So that was interesting. For example, there was this one submission. I'll just like try to find it, uh, but find the exact quote. But like the main idea was that if you are if you build a truly global app, and it was submitted by this 0xD2, so I don't know who is this person, but they said you need to build a lean mobile app, because they said that in Africa where this person lives, all of people just use this low-cost smartphones that have limiting processing power, limiting storage, and also typically very slow internet, uh, because there are also like many people and also a lot of like rural places. And like they said that Facebook Lite and TikTok have been optimized to work on like 1 gigabyte RAM smartphones there. And I actually remember that there was this anecdote from Mark Zuckerberg when he was so annoyed that his engineers were preparing these like super bloated versions of the app optimized for Silicon Valley guys, and then at some point he just sent them to Africa, and he said like, oh no, pack your
That's so
stuff, go
funny.
to Nigeria for a few months, I will give you smartphones that people use, and now you have to build app for that. And I think this was actually pretty interesting to me in like these social networks, is that this is a truly global product. And of course, you may not start with Africa. Maybe this is like a market that you focus later. But if you want to conquer the world, there's like over a billion people there, or maybe close to 2 billion right now. So yeah, this is a big, big
Yeah,
market.
totally. And crypto itself is like incredibly global, So I know like WorldCoin is crushing it in Africa. It's a huge market and they have some real inroads. And I'm here in Latin America, which is there's some lots of stuff happening down in like Brazil or Argentina. But Still a very big growth market here.
Yeah, yeah, and I also know that Cello is very big in Africa. So
Yeah, also,
actually,
yeah.
there is some market there for crypto, and also they're like very mobile friendly and fintech friendly. So that's yeah, that's an interesting market. Like one idea that I found like particularly interesting, it was from Zero X Abundance. It's Mike from Abundance, and he wrote about these extended reactions. So, when you see a post on Farcaster, you can comment, you can recast, you can like it. You could bookmark it, but I don't think you can anymore.
You can. It's
Ah, you,
very
you
hidden, but
still
you
can?
can. Yeah, yeah,
Ah, okay. so, so what this person said is, so what Mike said is that, you know, extended reactions means that you could have a different reaction button for different people. So let's say you are purple and you can submit a prop in a feed. And if I see it in a feed and I hold the purple NFT, I see a special reaction for purple NFT holders like vote yes, vote no. And I found it very interesting because it unlocks like so many ideas there.
yeah. I mean, even what we have today, I'm like lucky enough to be in some of the communities that get special emoji reactions, where like in nouns, if anywhere on Farcaster or Whoopcast you post the noggles, the Unicode noggles, the like button turns into noggles, right? And I do think that was very helpful early on to bring the nouns community from Twitter to Warpcast because like they immediately showed up and felt a little bit more welcome. And then also like maybe more generally, like memetics is such an important part of crypto and the culture here that that's like another way to like inject memetics into the interface itself.
Yeah, and like you kind of feel like home, when it's like uh, when like this place is like the place where you spend time because like for me, social network is a place at the end of the day. It's digital place, but it is a place. So like you kind of want to make it something like very cozy for you, and I think the biggest problem with all social networks with this Web 2 was that they are this one size fits all. Like Instagram, Facebook looks totally the same everywhere. And you have the same client because the idea is to get all people into this one big box and let them experience this one thing. And I think the beauty of crypto is that we can have different clients, but even inside the clients, we might have different things based on our uh, wallet holdings or our on-chain history.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, to like apps that have a completely customizable interface based on, the activity of your wallet.
Yeah, and there was this If Ireland, that If person, and like he was comparing different networks like Twitter, Discord, Facebook, Instagram, like how they grew, and they found interesting thing about Discord that Discord has a comparable amount of users to Twitter, which was very surprising to me because Twitter is huge. And his belief was that it was because Discord preserved this user agency. So as a user, you could, you know, like you can do whatever you want with your channel, basically. You can add bots, different emojis,
Totally.
different rules. It's very customizable and you kind of like feel it's yours. And I think there is a power in that.
Yeah, totally agree. Definitely. And of course, like actually not really mentioned in much of this writing, but it's always been the promise of client diversity and there is a future for Farcaster, which still feels a little bit far further away than I think a lot of us would like, where you do have all of these custom clients. And so, I think the example that we've been using for years now is like if you're an NBA fan, there's some version of a Farcaster client that is just about the NBA, shows you live sports, lets you look at the rosters, but then also has all the casts of people who are interested. I think there's an interesting future there. Of course, that's what an open protocol provides.
Yeah, I lately started using Super for
Yeah.
Kiwi account,
Yeah.
and it's really cool that they have this, this separate Super anoncast where only Super users can post. That's like such a nice and like very fresh feature that I have never seen in Web 2. So, yeah.
Super is such a good product. Obviously, Woj just joined Merkle, and the product will be sunset or open source, which is a little sad. But yeah, even like the other thing I like in it is lists. Like I have a list in Super, and then I set it as my default. So every time I open it up, that's the list I see,
Mm.
and it's very like there's like 25 people on it. I probably follow hundreds, if not thousands, of people on Workcast. So it's like a much more focused a couple of industry people who I do get, I'm really interested in what they're working on. I love that.
Wow, so this is something I didn't even know is there, so I gotta explore it for sure because this is one of my favorite Twitter features, like having lists.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, Also, there's been this idea from Sergeant Slaughterlemon. I hope I have not mispronounced the name, but what he said was that at the end of the day, like what have got maybe even more success than creating alternative client are apps that integrate Farcaster. So like Dracula or Rodeo, that it's not like everything is posted to Farcaster or Warpcast. It's more like these apps actually use the social graph very, or like interface, right? Like interface is amazing. Like I can follow my friends from Farcaster and see what they are trading. And actually, this is the promise I was here for when I joined Farcaster. This like
Yeah, yeah.
social graph that you can use everywhere. And yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Interface, I think, is they're the first ones I saw do an amazing job of integrating in just the social graph. Everyone else at that time was trying to build full-on Farcaster clients or apps, something like that, and then they just took the friend graph. And like the friend graph is one of the most powerful, interesting things about Farcaster. Although ironically, inside of Workcast, it's not that powerful because the algorithm is pretty aggressive, and whether you follow someone or not, you still may not see them, right? But then when you take it to the other apps, it is totally super powerful. And then like now take that to 100 and that Farcaster is going to be integrated directly into Coinbase wallet. And we don't really
Yeah.
know what that's going to be. It seems like there'll be a feed and posting and all of that stuff, but I am mostly excited about having your social graph in your primary wallet,
Mm.
surfacing up things people are minting, things people are doing.
Yeah, and like you could easily send money to your friends. Like I'm actually wondering, yeah, like especially if new people come and they probably won't have their ENS, up front, but if they have their Farcaster, like if my mom, hope she won't join Farcaster, but if she joins, she will have her own name, which is, as Varun said, actually like a ENS subdomain. So there's be like my mom.farcaster.eth.
Yeah, yeah,
So like I could send her money actually to her wallet through Coinbase wallet then, and like
yeah,
that's
totally.
actually really cool. And like I imagine you could like split bills with friends and have all these features that Revolut or Venmo have. And yeah, that's
Totally.
pretty exciting
Small
for me.
DAOs where your DAO is just like three friends, trying to go to a
Mm.
concert or something like that. There's like a lot of affordances there. By the way, it's great if your mom joins Farcaster. You need to be worried if she joins Solana. That's when you need an intervention.
Yeah,
Don't
maybe I need to go Anon
small
before she she joins. Yeah. Like, yeah, my mom, I think, is a late adopter. Like, I actually shown her Instagram like a year ago, and her first question was like, "Where can I find cats here?" So, yeah. So, but I hope sooner or later she will make it. Uh, okay. Some other idea. There was this interesting Google Docs. Actually, it was like a Google Docs essay titled "Who is Dan Romero?" And I found it like very interesting because the author said that one of ways to grow Farcaster is to make Dan Romero more like visible and more like a face of Farcaster. And I found it interesting because with Tim we were speaking a few like weeks before that there was a moment when Dan Romero was speaking in moments of Zen a lot, like with Antonio GM and all the other Eric and so on. And it was really cool because he of course wasn't speaking about Farcaster there. He was speaking about politics, economy and everything else. But I gotta say, like, to me, it was very good because at the end of the day, if you spend time on a social network, you're investing your time kind of like an investor money, and you believe that it's gonna grow one day. And what I found it interesting about it was that, you know, if I learn more about Dan Romero and I see he's like a obviously like a smart guy and very driven and so on, it's kind of like easier for me to invest time in this network because I know that it's kind of like, if Elon Musk starts Neuralink from ground up, people are like, okay, it's Elon Musk. He did Tesla, SpaceX. So you kind of like believe in it and you can spend your time on that, right? And like, I think it's kind of the same with Farcaster. And there was this time when Dan was doing a lot of podcast, and I hope, yeah, he will do it again.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. I think if I think of my experience, it sort of like checks all the boxes you said, which is like I believed in Dan very early on. I didn't really know who he was. I followed him a little bit on Twitter. I was interested in his RSS 3 or whatever RSS 2 thing that he was working on. But then when I joined, having the luxury of it being very small, like it was like Dan was very high contact because literally there were only 400 people on the network, and so like very quickly, and he's always been transparent. He still is, but like there was almost like shockingly transparent for software when I first joined. But totally, that I mean, it didn't take very long for me to really go all in with my attention and my time. And part of it was because I believe in Dan and V and everything they're building there. Well, I didn't. So this piece was about founder-led marketing, right? And then
Yeah.
totally pointed out that like, we know who Zuckerberg is and we know who Elon is. Maybe we don't as much to the extent know what's happening behind TikTok. Um, and I don't know if this was actually in the piece or maybe just me reading into it. It was also like the challenge here is at its face value is that like only outrage gets any press, right? And so Elon's crushing it on the outrage meter. Um, Mark Zuckerberg does a lot of things. It's only the outrage stuff that like kind of gets him into the press cycle, right? And so it's almost like, what does Dan have to do to be outrageous? And that's not necessarily organically him. He's very good at intellectually debating people and dunking on people, but to say something like completely outrageous is not quite him. But you are right
Mm.
that like through Moment of Zen and other podcasts and stuff like that, like that intellectual side comes out. I mean, just and it makes you feel good to be a part of a social network when the founders have like so many interests and cares about the world.
Yeah, I think the only way for Dan to create outrage is to tell people to build their own client. That's always, create some emotions. Yeah,
He
but
needs to
but
do like
I
he should do like the reverse Brian and just start dunking on Solana, and then like crypto Twitter will go crazy on him.
well, yeah, actually, this is what Tim said. That interestingly, like Dan doesn't dunk on Twitter much. Like, uh, and I understand why he might not want to do it because he like respects them and probably being having to do a duel with Elon Musk when it comes to social apps is a pretty hard thing, and maybe you don't want to make him angry or whatever. But yeah, that was surprising because many founders, especially in crypto, they're like, "Oh no, our competition is shit," and especially if it's like Web2 competition, because then it's like they won't probably even listen to these critics because they are kind of like in a parallel world. So that I'm not sure if Dan should do it, but yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
that's
totally.
an
I agree. There's something about like Ethereum, especially the early days, with like Ethereum values to 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 Farcaster in the early days, and just admitting like the intellectual honesty of saying like Lens is doing their thing, we're doing our things, we have different opinions, they're both good. Let's see what happens.
yeah,
That's like where it all came from, I think.
yeah. Speaking of different things, like Peachy wrote a piece about this post to earn meta, and I found it interesting because uh, one thing that's obvious is okay, like Warpcast gives away this USDC every week to top casters, But right now, what she pointed out is that channels also have their channel specific coins. And I don't know if you saw, but I think like yesterday or 2 days ago, Colin Johnson, he just shared this screenshot of him spending week on Farcaster and he made like $1,000 or
I
something
did see
like that.
that. Yeah, yeah.
I was like, wow, like imagine you're like for us it's normal, right? Like, you get maybe some airdrops or whatever. You bought some meme coins early there. But like, if you come out of the blue and you come to social network, and of course you might not make as much as Colin because he's been around for a long time. But let's say you even make like $50. That's like more than I made on Twitter my whole life.
Look, dude, when like the new reward systems, like I think the first week I won $5 or something, right? And amazed at every dollar I earn through social media. I'm amazed, right? So like the $5 I got from Warpcast is $5 more than I got from all of the social media posting history. So I think there's a lot of truth to this kind of post to earn. There's a lot of opportunities on Warpcast. It's not super simple. Like you have to come in and learn the culture and see where you get rewarded and the things like that. But I think there's a super strong meta. There's a second part of that, which is because you're like in these channels and like maybe you got like a DGen airdrop, or because everyone on Farcaster was buying Clanker, maybe you bought a small amount of Clanker. You then all of a sudden are receiving other airdrops from other projects who value Farcasters, right? Or you're getting it on a pre-sale or whatever it is. And so, yeah, I definitely think it's an interesting place to earn. We were all talking about like
Mm,
straight up places around the world where you can make enough money Farcaster than you make in your
yeah,
job. In
yeah.
fact, I know one artist who was using rounds pretty heavily, participating in some of the Nouns animation rounds. And he was from Argentina, and I met him over the summer at a conference. And he straight up told me, like, I'm making more money from the rounds on Farcaster than I make in my day job, and I think I'm going to quit my day
Wow.
job. At which point I was like, wait, you're pretty near crypto.
Yeah,
It's pretty crazy here. You probably don't want to quit your day job yet, but then he
yeah.
coached them through, like, oh, you might want to think about that.
Yeah, yeah, it's very like it makes me very optimistic. Like it's very easy to make this post to earn not work. I don't know if you remember, but when Quora started, there was a competitor to Quora that raised like 100 million, and it was actually run by Jay Call, like the Jay Call
That's funny.
from All In Pod, and they were paying people to respond to questions, and it just failed. But I think the difference is that Quora, like responding to a question on Quora, is not like a social, like it is social-ish interaction, but like you don't feel that much connection with these people. If
Yeah.
someone asks you like how to, I don't know, repair a refrigerator, like some random person from the internet. So I think, especially now with this Warpcast wallet integrated, I got more optimistic
Super
about this
interesting.
post to earn.
Yeah, I mean, if you like even like in the abstract, like so much value is created in these social networks, and then like traditionally, it either goes to the company that makes the social network or the advertisers. And so there's
Yeah.
still, and like in Farcast, they're obviously smaller, but there's still a lot of value being generated. And like people are experimenting with new ways to distribute that value. And I think there's still like 1,000 experiments to happen here. But I agree with you. I mean, I think the fundamental difference is that the
Mm,
value is being captured by the participants of the network one way or another. There's not a Farcast with tokens, right? So that's one way to capture value, but there's just another way where it's like it's not just being extracted all by advertisers, it's being kind of
yeah.
put back into the system, right? I mean, maybe one way
Yeah.
to think about it is like Coinbase, they advertise on Instagram, but they run rounds in Warpcast, right? So it's like a
Yeah.
totally different.
Yeah. And there's also this take regarding to that from this MKK Stacks. And he said that newbies joining Farcaster need to have realistic expectations. So, you know, that some people have this, okay, I will join, I will get rich quickly, or I will get famous in like 5 posts and anything like that. And what they say is that, you just need to embrace the novelty. And he said this really nice phrase: you should embrace the novelty of being a clueless foreigner in a new world. And I
That's
really love
totally
it.
it. Yeah,
sounds very poetic, and it's very accurate. Like you just come in and it works just differently. It's just like coming to a party with people you've never seen before. The party looks different than whatever you've seen before. And you're like, okay, how does it work?
totally. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's such a good quote that he had. Because I was thinking the same thing. It is a little bit like, yeah, you move to a new city and you need to make money, but it takes a little bit of time to get your feet under you and learn the lay of the land. I think in general, like crypto and to some extent AI, or just more broadly, emerging technology requires a lot of patience and a long time horizon. And then what we actually observe in crypto is people trying to get rich overnight.
Yeah.
And there's like a mismatch of those here. And then yeah, I was thinking this morning, it's like the first Palm Pilot I used was probably like in 1996, but then the iPhone came out in like whatever it came out 2006. So the
Yeah.
we need patience here.
Yeah, I remember like outside of crypto, like in my previous life, I was following this guy who's like a world-class marketer. He worked in like this, all these like top startups, and he said that his approach is like whenever he joins a new community, he doesn't post anything for some time. He just listens. He just wants to understand what people find interesting, what are these unspoken rules, what are the values that might not be written down the wall, but like they are there. He just listens, and after like few days, he starts talking. And I think it's a wise approach because Farcaster is very different than crypto Twitter, and there are these people that like right now it's not that intense, but like this year, like last year when crypto Twitter were coming to Farcaster and they started reposting the same rage bait kind of stuff, it felt just like so
Yeah, but it
weird.
just didn't work actually. It's just kind of
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah. So
I think the tough thing about the post to earn like tagline is that second part, which is like come to Fark as they're supposed to earn. That is very true. The second part of that is like, but probably not on your first day. So post for a month,
yeah,
And again, in the instant gratification world, it's tough.
yeah, 100%. Like I also from some ideas related to that. Bradq, like he had this very interesting approach when he said, "Well, like, what's forecaster growth about?" And he's like, "Well, it's about people that are here." And he said, like, "Well, if you were about to tell your friends what's Farcaster about," and he said, "Well, you have to see this app where an Olympic athlete is sponsoring her training and documenting her journey to LA just by creating content and building an audience, or like." I'm on this social app filled with smart, amazing builders who are helping each other and building new internet economy. So like, you know, yeah, you can always talk about features like, yeah, you can cast, you can just like do whatever. But like, it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, like, it's kind of like group chat. Like you can say, well, Twitter and Farcaster are more or less the same when it comes to features, and so are group chats. But you want to be part of one group chat and you don't want to be a part of another group chat. And
Yeah,
the difference is people. Like literally just people and the subject they are talking about. And I think that it will sound like this cliche HR line, but the strength of Farcaster is people. Because like, yeah, but it's true, right? It's like,
by the way, I love this piece, and it's the one I was reading that I most was thinking. I wonder what Dan thinks about this because they're so product focused. They're so like product playbook focused. And I think they do a really great job of it, and they kill features when they have to, and they MVP like but they don't actually talk a lot about the people. They do a pretty good job of, at least within Forecast, they're recasting and highlighting the people. But there's not there tends to I don't feel a big emphasis on people coming from that team. Though I
yeah,
think they're keenly aware of the power of the network is the people, and that post that Dan had months back that made everyone mad, where he said we need better content. I think he was saying like we have great people, we need more great people, um, for sure. And then there's some angle to this article that's like, actually, this is just the marketing play. is like go talk about the people doing amazing stuff, so
Yeah.
that people can see why they would want to join this network. But at the end of the day, it's with the people. Like if it was the crypto Twitter people just on Farcaster, we would never suck, right? But it
Yeah.
was like builders and thinkers and just people who wanted to have a more honest dialogue.
Yeah, and even this like crypto Twitter people, when they came to Farcaster, they behaved differently. Just like, I behave differently with my friends from high school and my friends from work, right? Like it's just like a
Totally.
different
Culture,
way.
basically.
Yeah, and also like like one comment to that. I think the reason that Ted and Watch joined Farcaster is exactly that. Like I'm super bullish on them being on Farcaster because they really get it. Like they really get it. It's about people. They are one of these people, so it also makes it like very genuine. And I'm very curious to see what they're going to come up with.
Totally. And like they have a history of hiring from within the community. Like Casey was I think just a caster and then joined the team. But I'm also super bullish that they brought on two incredible people who have been executing in their own way, but totally are like people centric. And you are right, are two of the people, like yeah.
Yeah. Okay, what else I have noted down here? Let's see. Oh, one interesting from James Rush. I really love this comment. He was talking about using the app basically and like UI, UX, and so on. He's like, where is the color? I mean, like, color can be personal and impact mood. A dim color for a Farcaster client could invoke a better feeling when opening the app. And yeah, like, Farcaster is famous for not having a designer, but like, the design is nice, like, it's like good enough for me. But what he said that, he actually have like personal color themes for
The
different,
other apps, yeah.
yeah, and like, I, I think like it's like as far as I understand, if you put the constraints well when it comes to colors, that the contrast is right and so on, you could probably let people play around with it. Of course, then the problem is, I don't know if you remember, but when we started Kiwi, you could like change the fruit and the color of the UI by
Yeah.
clicking. So yeah, but like for me, the problem was then like, well, if someone sends you a screenshot and it's not a kiwi news, it's a banana news or like potato news, it looks like a
Because of the
different
branding.
product.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, is it the same thing, And I'm wondering if we add more color, like if we give people too much freedom, wouldn't, if someone makes a screenshot, that would look like a different app? But maybe there's a way around it.
Yeah, super interesting. I like this post because it felt like someone who's like, I don't know a lot about them, but like, I assume design is their craft because it was written in a way made me believe that was their craft. So I liked it. And then I'll just close by saying I'm just happy like that the Warpcast icon in dark mode kind of looks
Yeah,
nice because the light mode one, we could have changed it a long time ago.
yeah. Speaking of this, like, a lot of freedom, there was this Farcaster is a car. I don't know if you recall that by Tom Beck. And it was interesting one because he generally said something like that, like, if you are, because it's like so easy right now with AI and everything to code, and it's gonna be easier. Like, it's not that we're gonna, 3 years from now, it's gonna be harder to code. Like, probably totally reverse. Like, it's gonna be much easier. He said that maybe it will be easier for people to build their own clients, just like his idea was that there are different cars, like limousine and minivan and sports car and truck, and they have different, like you use them for different things and you feel differently when you use them as well. Like, you get a sports car and you go to a party with friends, but if you use a minivan, probably you take your kids from school. And his approach was that, yeah, clients could be just like these different cars, and that people, because it would be so easy to code, might actually be able to create more customized clients. Like, maybe just like even drag and drop kind of tool, uh, or like something like that. So yeah, that's an interesting approach because it feels very native to crypto
Totally.
to
Yeah,
so
maybe then it's like the an extension of that is work Farcaster being integrated into other apps. So it's like you're creating stuff, it's with AI, it's actually not about social, it's whatever, it's a DeFi thing, or maybe it's something totally disconnected. Like it's a coloring book app, but it's so easy
hmm
to add social layer that you'll like bring in the social graph and some of the posting. Yeah,
yeah.
I believe in that future, by the way. I believe in a future where we have boutique apps that are custom to us, and
Yeah, like even now, like Tim shared lately that he built his own like speech to text
I saw that.
integration to
Yeah.
AI. Of course, he's like a very proficient developer, so for him it's doable and maybe not for a random person. But it's 2025. Let's look where it's gonna be, in like 1, 2 years.
Yeah, look, I have a computer science degree, but I have not written production code like since the year 2000.
Oh
I've
my
made
God.
tons of stuff with AI. Now there is some level you hit today. Like you can build anything on the front end. So you can like, and especially as a product person, you can prototype so much stuff. As soon as you need like a real, like there's a database back there, and oh, by the way, I
Yeah.
want this to sync across devices, that's where it all falls down. But the front end side of things is, as far as I'm concerned, completely solved problem. And so now, yeah, we're just going to move deeper into the stack. It's very hard to tell if it's going to come next week or if it's going to come 10 years from now. That's
Yeah.
the.
Yeah, yeah. And there was also this one idea I really liked from Papa Gems about making channels more relevant. So he said something like, imagine you have a chess channel and you have, let's say, Magnus Carlsen drops for a week and like offers coaching sessions, so on, and like Q&A and like of course this is a Magnus Carlsen is probably like very hard person to get, but getting a chess grandmaster, like not a famous one, but just like a really excellent chess player, is not hard.
Yeah,
And you could
totally.
probably pool capital in a channel and say like, okay, let's get like $1,000 and get this guy here, and he will share some advice with us. And I found it interesting because he also like writes about AMAs that they were kind of like this way to make
Right.
yeah like create this like very deep value inside the channel. And I think like this is something that makes me very bullish about channels. I know they are now not such a priority, but I think it's more about like, yeah, like they have not been the real channels haven't been tried yet. Kind of
Yeah, I
like
see what you're saying. Right. Yeah. I think that's true. I'm still bullish on channels. I'm a little bummed that they've been deprioritized. I kind of understand why. They need to be in the protocol, I think, which is first and foremost the biggest challenge.
yeah.
And I also understand the way they like if they would have put it into the protocol and it didn't work, like they haven't really been working, then you have like this cruft in the protocol or you need to upgrade it somehow. So I understand why they didn't do it, but channels, I'm still super bullish on the third party. It's a hard problem, really. Even the third party kind of channel centric apps never really took off. But there was a version in this last channels update that I heard they were testing internally, where if you post it into a channel it wasn't on the main feed. And so the main
hmm
feed was just all naked posts and the channels, which is all the channel specific stuff. And on one hand, I think that's like way more powerful because then you like go to your channel and watch
yeah.
it. On the other hand, they said it killed the home feed. Like, because,
Yeah.
and also interesting, like the meta changed so quickly. It wasn't that long ago where every single post people put in a channel. And now it's
Yes.
kind of the opposite of that, right? So,
Yeah.
but totally, I do think channels or maybe like channels are just a metaphor for sub communities with wallets. There's definitely something interesting in this playground, and
Yeah.
that piece was a good one.
I don't know if you're like an active Reddit user. Uh, yeah, so like on Reddit,
I used to
like
be,
you
yeah.
can really, if you go to a subreddit, you can see like things that you would never find on the internet. Like,
Totally.
no way. People are so deep. Like, I'm a big fan of Arcane, this like, I don't know if you watch Arcane, but it's like a Netflix show. And I joined their subreddit, and oh my god, like the amount of ideas people have and like the amount of excellent memes that they created was like something I would never find myself.
Yeah.
And all
Totally.
these discussions, and even some of the show creators were like, "Oh, you know, you're discussing it. No, it wasn't like that. The idea was different." So like, it gives this really magical feeling. But I think that like my theory actually is that Dan isn't like a super active redditor, so
Yeah,
that's
you're
why
probably true.
he might not like feel the like how to do it really well, and also it's a harder task because you want to have Twitter and channels at the same time, so that's like
Totally.
complicated.
What I'll say is this is where like social and crypto and Reddit maybe all come together. But for a long time, I described DAOs to people as like, hey, imagine you're a subreddit, but you have a joint bank account. And so you're like really passionate about saving the ocean. So you're in the saving the ocean subreddit. But right now, all we're doing is like sharing articles and talking about what could be done versus like
Mm,
going cleaning up a beach somewhere or cleaning up a reef or something like that, because you need resources to do that and you pull your resources. And so now with the embedded Warpcast wallet, it's like imagine powerful channels with a built-in wallet. Maybe the channel itself gets a group wallet. Um,
mm.
I think
Yeah,
there's
like
just
a
like these
multi-sig.
like a multi-sig basically,
Mm,
right? Or um,
mm.
yeah. So maybe there's just some crypto primitives missing to the channel experience that could really unlock it.
Yeah, fingers crossed. So, we are slowly getting to the end, but I really want to highlight one piece by Pierre about Artcoin, and but also like primarily because why artists are in, matter on Farcaster, because there is this I would call it like a meme that artists are struggling on Farcaster, and like and I think for some it was actually true because they just couldn't find their own place there, and couldn't maybe we get enough audience, and at the same time had this they have this client called, I don't know how it's called. I don't Orb that is like very art oriented. It's like beautiful feel. Like it looks much better than Instagram. You can just like
Yeah.
scroll it,
Yeah.
mint it. It's like super nice. It looks better than Zora in my opinion, or Rodeo. It's like super well made, and I imagine that artists, after seeing such a thing, they go to Farcaster, which is closer to Twitter. They might feel like, okay, we don't have a place for us. But what Pierre basically says that that there should like networks that are created from artists for artists. They probably not work most of the time because it's just like an echo chamber, and kind of like it's kind of like if you go to a party and everyone wants to play their own song but no one wants to listen to the other. Like they might listen because artists typically like to consume art, but at the same time they produced something so they want to share it, so
Yeah.
that might be problematic. But he thinks that that artists might thrive with this like QDAO DJs and thinkers, because it's also inspiring for artists to see these things and these conversations, and kind of like comment with their art on the things they are seeing. And he actually says shitposting, memes, and emergent aesthetics aren't just noise. They are the building blocks of an internet native art movement. Farcaster could be both its audience and its museum. And 100% agree. Like with internet, it's like a lot of internet art just happens because of our social network activity.
Yeah, totally. But one thing that this makes me think of is like artists have kind of always been around the movements and the intellectuals, and like whether it was like coffee shops in the Enlightenment or the beat movement
Hmm.
in New York in the 50s and 60s. Like artists and thinkers and writers, and like it's so natural that um kind of the people in the top of those fields would all kind of be intermingling with a little bit of degeneracy always mixed into there too. And so like yeah, WordPress can be that. It's definitely like that for almost everything else, and then the artists haven't really fully plugged their way in. I do think some of the artists also came with that crypto Twitter mindset, and came, when a lot of them were complaining. I also fully acknowledge that WordPress is a hard place for artists, and the algorithm doesn't favor media necessarily, and it can be a hard place to tell your story. But a lot of them came in with sort of that crypto Twitter mindset, and like they would just post Zora links, right? Where I think Farcaster is more of a place where people need to get to know you, and they want to understand your art a little bit, and then will support you, or support whatever your movement is, but aren't just necessarily collecting JPEGs.
Yeah. I remember I read this paper once about artists, like what actually makes artists successful, and based on historical data. And they analyze, whether this art was very different from all other art pieces, or did they have the right timing, and like how expensive it was, and so on. And they found out that number one reasons that made Farcaster, well, artists successful, was their social graph, actually, because they were around people who liked their art, who promoted their art to other people, who sometimes had a lot of power as well. Like, if you were a friend with Peggy Guggenheim, like 40 years ago, you probably, like Jackson Pollock was basically, like a guy who was around these New York circles, and he got like super famous. And like, it used to be like that. There were these like few power brokers in art, but in internet art, there are many more power brokers. Sometimes you cannot have this punk 6529 like your art, but you may have, 5,000 other people that like your art, and that's enough. Like,
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and crypto's like an interesting space. You kind of, in some ways, have to find. Yeah, I think some of this is because it's still so small, but then you like have to kind of find your communities. And then it's like the internet version of what you just said. It's like your communities are the ones then who are around you and who amplify you and tell you about opportunities or bring your art to other opportunities. I feel like I've had some of that where I have lots of communities now just supported me in lots of ways, but Farcaster itself has been a pretty big support. Or like FWB, which is a DAO I'm in. It's like I'm in Miami. They're throwing. I was in Miami at the time. They were throwing a gallery event. They hit me up through FWB. Do I be in this event?
mm,
Which is just like not an opportunity I would have had I not been in that community in the first
yeah,
place.
yeah, 100%. Yeah. By the way, are there any takes that you would like to discuss? Because I'm just like the one who's throwing and like, just like changing these takes all the time, and I want to give you, some space if you have anything.
Yeah, no, I love that you're leaving the discussion. To be in the jury, maybe a little behind the scenes, is like you're reading a lot of papers. In fact, I first started printing them out because it's just easier to read in the chair. And it was like, oh, there's so much paper I'm using here. I think I have to go read this. I think I have to go read this on my desktop. And so I took like little notes, obviously in more of a scoring type of way, but and then I wound up, as I was reading them, I was casting a bunch of the great uh, quotes I saw and stuff. I think like there was some meme coin stuff, but I think there was also like a lot of recognition. Like one of my quotes that I have written down from Terrace Errands is like the flippening from taking attention to narrative development is so the flippening from taxing attention to narrative development is inevitable. And so I feel like everyone's feeling that. And then certainly we just had some crazy weekend events here in meme coin land. Um, and while there's like a lot of meme coin activity happening in Warpcast, and a lot of it's centered around Clanker, which is actually it's much better fair launch type of mechanic than some of these others. There were a lot of these articles who were saying like, you guys really need to double down on meme coins. I think it was some that feeling of like, hey, you need to embrace these meme coins, but it all needs to be a lot deeper than this.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I don't know if you saw this article, like essay or like thread by Jacek today about like how to launch a scam meme coin.
so good.
Yeah, and what just like strikes me is that there are like two problems. One is people get mad that meme coins generate money because like they capture a lot of value. But the other problem is that many meme coins are just like outright scams. I mean, the way they are being launched, there's like this group chat cabal, and like there are people just like withdraw liquidity or whatever. So, like, I actually wrote it on Kiwi that like, I went to this DGen anniversary, and like, I am a person who's like, I try to not be associated with DGen activities that much. Although I trade some meme coins, I don't want it to be a part of, something that people connect with me much. And I had zero problem with going to DGen party and being photographed and like going to the stage even and being recorded because DGen, like I don't like you of course remember that it was like this fair launch where Jacek actually calculated your Farcaster activity and what were the rules for an airdrop. Everyone got an airdrop, like smaller or bigger. And then even if you didn't get it, you could get much even more in tips. Like on
Totally.
Valentine's Day last year, you could get like 1 million DGen allowance, which at the height of DGen was worth like $60,000. I mean, like
Amazing.
without
Yeah.
spending, any like basically anything. Like I think you had to hold a little bit of DGen, but like so it felt like so inclusive, and I think like this Justin Ans quote that like Farcaster is a circular economy and we just rack each other all the time either towards generational wealth or just like yeah food stamps or whatever like I think yeah I mean like there has been some of it that I didn't like that there were like so many tokens launched and many people were just not really that legit and like I felt their intentions weren't like good or like they just wanted to make a quick buck but I think Farcaster needs to embrace meme coins because meme coins are part of the internet culture and because like memes are part of the internet culture and meme coins have become a part of internet culture with Dodge and so on and I think you cannot not embrace them if you're a crypto social
It,
network. It doesn't mean
totally.
that you should promote them like all the time, but you should not shy away of the good one from the good ones, the ones that are
Totally.
legit.
When I was reading Jason's post this morning, I like had the empathy of like, oh, there's so many of these scams, but like you, the higher guys, like a lot of these, and some of them just happen to be Farcast and native. It's like have been grinding, have been doing it the right way, have been ethical about the whole thing, and now all of a sudden everyone's dumping on the category. Right.
Yeah.
And certainly if I'm harsh on meme coins, I actually don't mean degen, I don't mean higher where they're real teams. And then I think this is a topic for another call, but what I was thinking was like the meme coins are literally zero cost products. Like,
Yeah.
and I can't name another one, right? Because like even if
Hmm.
you build software which maybe has zero cost, you still put in time to build software, right? Like even if you minted an NFT and it took you 30 minutes to make that NFT, that's like a 30-minute cost. Meme coins maybe at best have a 5-minute cost. You like something like Clanker. It's like you see a funny cast, you crave a Clanker. That was a 30-second cost, and like
Hmm.
what were the implications of cost-free economies?
Yeah. I think the main implication we see from it being cost free is that there are so many of them. I
Totally,
mean,
totally, totally.
if you go to Pump.fun, for example, and there was this Elon Musk, just like speech when he made this gesture that many people say was a Nazi salute. So you had like 100 of these memes like Elon Musk, Nazi, Hitler, Shiba Inu, Moon, whatever, the come rocket, whatever. And like people are just like throwing it probably programmatically and just seeing what sticks and just
Yeah.
try, So,
It
so,
would be,
so
it would be cool. Like what Workcast did, like, now they do have like, if you use code token address or token name, it like links to the page and shows you all the stuff.
yeah,
Like, imagine if you just saw the team. That's like the power of Farcaster. It's like, hey,
yeah,
it's the team here, who's actually working on this? Because
yeah.
in the end, teams over memes.
Yeah, and I can see like on interface, I can see who deployed it. I can see
So,
which of my friends bought it, and I can literally, it's not like they said, hey, I bought it. Like, I can see they bought it because
yeah,
it's in their
yeah.
wallet. So it's a very honest signal that they are invested in something. So yeah. Uh, okay, we're getting till the end. I want to just maybe close it with one point from Shamanov. It's like he's a very interesting guy from Zurion, and he wrote a post about like Farcaster is a frontier town, and he had this point that that Farcaster is at frontier, and we kind of like on Wild West you had this like frontier town where it's a little bit dangerous, but you also can make a lot of money if you find gold or oil on some plot of land. But there are also like very interesting people there who come there for 100 different reasons. And he said that like embracing it before it becomes like tamed and civilized and kind of like yeah, like invoked with all this like bigger internet culture is like just to embrace it and tell the stories, tell like tell the story of people who made money, but also tell the stories of people who were like yeah, like had hard time here. Maybe they came in and they were like, okay, I want to get rich in 5 minutes, and they did not. And maybe also tell about this, wide open prayers where he says that, like people build different stuff here, and some of these are very interesting takes. I like to me, this is the right way to kind of say that, like, if you want to see what's coming next, be on a forecaster. Because like in consumer crypto, most interesting projects I see are like either built by people, maybe if these are not like active forecaster people, but they have forecaster accounts at least. But like many active forecaster people also build like super interesting consumer stuff. And outside, it's basically, yeah, let's build another, saving app with better APY. Like, yeah, whatever. Like, I don't care.
Totally.
But like on Farcaster, there's a lot of creativity, and I think it's useful to just frame it that way.
Yeah, I like that too. And like even the the Pioneer Town or whatever the framing was is Farcaster was launched in the bear market, and so it like naturally attracted builders, right? Like when I joined, there was like all this builder energy, because it's an open protocol, and we've all been rugged by all these platforms in the past. And it was like true believers who loved Ethereum and loved crypto, and there was no money to be made. Like it's almost hard to remember, but it was like there was no money to be made.
Yeah.
We were all just doing it because we loved it, and it was creative, and we could push the limits. And while that's changing at large, I think in the industry, that's still the core of Farcasters, like creative technologists in crypto trying different things.
Yeah, 100%. I think your like this closing sentence will be a great clip for from this podcast.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. So Chris, like, thanks a lot for taking time. Because it's weekend, so I know it's hard, but like, yeah, thanks a lot. It's been like very fun, and like I really like this conversation because it helped also me to just like connect the dots in my head. So
Cool.
yeah,
Yeah,
thanks a
thanks, man.
lot.
I always love talking to you. I appreciate what you guys are doing at Kiwi. I appreciate, like, I woke up this morning appreciating the way you guys live Ethereum values. And as things have gotten a little unhinged on Solana for sure, and I think that a lot of us need to be reminded why we're here in this space. You guys have never wavered. You've just done it the right way since day one.
No, thanks a lot. And yeah, like I will pass these words to Tim, but he's also said that he's gonna probably listen to the podcast anyway. So
Cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
thanks a lot then, and yeah, have a good Saturday.
All right. Catch you later.